Well, hello, folks out there in YouTube land. Got a big show lined up for you. Let's get right on into this one. Oh, yeah. Truth has finally come out, and we're going to talk about not only this NCAA settlement, but also the antitrust exemption they're trying to get. But we finally got the truth. And as you folks know, I never bury the lead. So Charlie Baker has come out and told the truth about this NCAA settlement. You know, we've been hearing for months how this is going to be great for the players and all that sort of stuff, and this is a good deal. It's not really a good deal. It's a deal they had no choice. They were facing extermination, the NCAA, and they had to agree to this settlement. Otherwise, it was going to implode the NCAA. They would have gone extinct. And they knew it. Because when you are charged or sued over antitrust and you lose, the damages are tripled. So they were being sued for back pay of $2.8 billion. Well, if you triple that, that's almost $9 billion. Or now I guess it'd be 8.4. And you got to pay it immediately. You think the NCAA's got 8.4 billion laying around? I kind of doubt it. So Charlie Baker came out with the truth that this was a haphazard put together deal that they had no choice but to sign. And he came out with it. This is on ESPN. So settlement helps NCAA stabilize and avoid bankruptcy. This is by Andrea Adelson. Well, let's get right into the meat of it. It says, in front of a standing room only crowd, Baker told the assembly group, no one in this room needs to hear me say that this is one of the biggest changes ever in college sports. I hope you also understand that it's a far better future than virtually every other alternative that could have been in front of us. Then he said, blame whoever you wish to blame, but the simple truth is college sports' collective inability or unwillingness to change years ago put the entire enterprise at risk. He said, is the settlement disruptive? Very much so, but it's an opportunity for D1 community to pay for back damages over 10 years instead of triple the amount all at once. And it creates a future that comes with choices instead of bankruptcy. And this is what I've been telling you folks for months, that this was a desperate move. This was not planned out at all, and that they had no choice because this, look, they put the cart before the horse. They wound up cutting a deal because they had no choice. And the deal is difficult. But it was that or don't survive. So now you've got to go in and you've got to undo all the problems of it after it's been done, because now the sword's off their neck. And they created this college sports commission, which basically gets them out of the way of the firing squad of basically being sued every 5 minutes. And now this Seeley fella is the guy that's going to be the bad guy instead of Charlie Baker. Now, I got to give Baker credit. He got the heck out of the way.
Ooh, I love to dance a little sidestep. Now they see me, now they don't. Have come and gone.
Absolutely. He did a little sidestep. Look, he just wants to go up there and be a figurehead now and enjoy his, big time pay and go and play golf and do stuff like that he was expecting to be able to do instead of being the punching bag, which is what he's been. And Greg Sankey spoke to this, talks about the settlement, all of that to Paul Feinbaum.
College sports doesn't work well with 50 different standards. If we're left with just states legislating, then the notion of College World Series, and we just saw the highlights from one, those don't work very well if everybody's playing by their own rules. And so that's one reason for national standards. And I could go on as to other reasons. I think the interest has always been there. I think the attention has increased, the understanding of the changes we've made. I think even in the last few days, there have been any number of members of the House and Senate quoted in a positive way about this new economic relationship. But to kind of continue forward, I think this congressional help, engagement, and introduction of a meaningful bill to support college athletics remains a real priority for us.
And Commissioner, you really can't do much more than what you were doing yesterday, but the reality is that time is short. And I say that because a year and a half ago, a lot of leaders like yourself were concerned about the calendar, presidential election, but as we turn the calendar, we're in a midterm election, and it's a never-ending cycle. So in relation to that, as leaders convene again in a couple of days in Washington, is there a sense of urgency, or is it just simply a matter of trying to continue the education of people that matter in that community.
From my perspective, there's a sense of urgency. Now, I can't speak for 435 members of the House of Representatives and 100 senators. And as I identified, there's much on their plate.
So yeah, they're going to Congress for an antitrust exemption. Now, think this through for a minute. If this deal was such a good deal and so well thought out, why would you need an antitrust exemption? Because it wasn't well thought out. And it absolutely flies in the face of antitrust law. So they're going to Congress to circumvent the law and get this special exemption. And realize you got to get the House, the Senate, President all to agree. And they're trying to get other stuff done. I can't imagine anything more difficult, but it's the challenge that they're faced because they don't have a deal that really can stand judicial scrutiny. They know they've got to have some get out of jail free card. And here's a story talking about, will Congress back the 2.8 settlement with antitrust protection? And Charlie Baker said, one of the messages we got from Congress was clean up your house first and then come talk to us. So Baker and the NCAA, they're lobbying for a limited form of antitrust protection that would prevent, for instance, lawsuits challenging the spending cap prescribed by the settlement, which was 20.5 million in the first year. It goes up 4% a year after that. They also need exemption that might include a carve out for eligibility rules, which is not part of the settlement, but is landed in the courts, which is the 5-year thing versus 4. They also want a preemption of state laws that set different rules for paying players, which amounts to what they consider a competitive advantage. Said here it talks about Danny White, who suggested collective bargaining was the only solution. Yeah, and Danny and Donde, they already know this won't last, that it just won't survive the courts. So they're the ones that have been like, let's go ahead and collective bargain. Let's get working towards that because that's where we're headed.
It's a real issue. We could go on and on about what we need, but I'll say it. We got a camera on us. I don't really care at this point. Collective bargaining is the only issue. It's the only solution.
It's the only way we're going to get there.
Yeah.
I agree with you.
And the NCAA and Charlie Baker are like, no, maybe we can get this antitrust exemption and we can go ahead and keep going around the law. So realize a couple of things. This $20.5 million is a unilateral salary cap. Now, you really can't have a salary cap unless you've collective bargained. It's a number that they picked. I wouldn't say they picked it out of the hat, but it's a one-sided thing because all the players that are out there right now in college, they didn't have anything to do with this. They had no say. They had no representation. This is all from years ago, partly a back pay issue and also some form of revenue sharing so they can get out of this mess and quit getting sued. So the second, and this is going to so happen, it's ridiculous. This 20.5, that's not nearly enough for what players are getting now because Texas, for example, is spending up to $40 million for 2025. Ohio State's probably over 30. Tennessee is, I got to believe they're over 30 because they're going to spend like 12 million on basketball alone. So 20.5, that would leave like 5 or 6 just for football. That wouldn't even handle the defense and offensive lines. So I know Tennessee's got to be around 30. So the following year, they're going to go to 20.5. So all of these players are going to take these huge pay cuts. Now, do you think they would have agreed to that?
Oh, hell no!
They would have left it alone. So they're going to sue like crazy. That's why they're going to the Congress to try to get help because they know they have an indefensible position. You're going to lose. So I am glad that Charlie Baker admitted what we all know. We've all known this was true, that they had bankruptcy right in front of them. That was their only choice. That's why they went along with this. It's a very flawed settlement. And realize that Claudia Wilkins, who was the judge, she wasn't deciding if it passed antitrust law. She was just saying, is it fair or not? So that's why they're going to Congress. I am glad that the truth has come out, that it was, a desperation move by the NCAA, and Charlie Baker got himself out of the mess. That was pretty brilliant on his part. And now the SEELEY dude's going to take all the heat. Man, I don't know how he worked that out. I guess he's a pretty smart dude. And I think when you've been getting crushed every day, everywhere you go, you can get pretty inventive in your thinking. So Baker has taken himself out of the frying pan and not into the fire. Well, not into the fire either. He put Seeley in the fire. Anyway, wanted to cover this today because this is just beginning. It really is. And I know a lot of y'all don't want to hear that. You think, God, man, we finally got this settlement. Everything will be fine. It's not going to be. It's not. This is just the beginning of a long, drawn-out process. We're going to eventually wind up at collective bargaining. I don't think there's any question. Unless, how are they going to get the Congress to agree to this? Think that through. These players are going to take a 50% pay cut going from 25 to 26 with this settlement. How many Congress people are going to go along with that? These players are going to take a 50. They're not going to vote for that. They're not. You can get a handful that will. And hey, maybe I'll be proven wrong. Maybe somehow I don't see any possible way. I don't. I understand why they're doing it. It makes perfect sense. I just don't think it's going to work. I think they ought to focus. Well, maybe they need to fail at this and beat their head against the wall for a while, and then they'll move towards what they're going to have to do long term. Anyway, if you like this content, be sure to hit that thumbs up button. Let's me know. Continue to cover all these big college sports stories. If you've not subscribed, boom, 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 hit that button right there. It won't cost you a dime. Help you get my videos. And right over here is the most recent video YouTube thinks you'll enjoy. We'll see you next time on Sports Talk Jay. This has been a crazy off season. I'm ready for football. It's going to be a while, though.
What's your case?
Our case is simply this.